isn't good, but because like sometimes that shit just happens in crypto. Like it just happens. We've seen it happen a lot. So the fact that Solana didn't go to zero is actually incredible, and the NFT community deserves, in my opinion, the majority of the credit for that, because they did just keep the conversation going. That is where the communities are. And up until Bonk and all this stuff, dude, DeFi TVL in Solana was very low. There wasn't just like a shit ton of money pouring in there. It was very different. Bonk also deserves a lot of credit there too. Now I will say this: even if you had got into Ethereum and missed DeFi and missed the ICO and missed everything, even if you had gone into Ethereum in 2022, you could have minted any of those big projects that came out, made a lot of money. There was still a lot of other things that were building that you could have got involved in. But it doesn't matter if even if Solana's $500 tomorrow, you're still early. And I still feel the same way for Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin's 100,000 tomorrow, you're still early. You're early to the things being built on the chain. You might not be early to the chain token itself, but that's fine, dude. Like, it doesn't even matter. There's so many other opportunities. So I don't know, but I also agree with the cautionary stuff, Amy, because by the way, guys, if someone calls a couple shit coins right, that does not mean they are fucking Jesus Christ, okay? Like, it does not mean that they are God and they can tell the future. Like, I've seen this cycle many times. I'm actually not even referencing anybody specifically, but if the shoe fits, the shoe fits. So you got
Leap,
to be.
I don't know if you feel super lucky or like super fortunate, but everyone I follow just really magically became a shitcoin analyst overnight, actually. And I feel honestly super blessed that my entire following is a meme coin technical analyst. So my timeline is just immaculate these days because everyone's a magician and magical and perfect.
So I actually think there's a lot of truth to that. I think I'm actually a fan of people getting in on the meme and like getting involved in. Like, I was not early to dog. Again, I think I bought the Pico top of dog with hat and like a very small amount of money. So I think I'm down. But like I'm not. I don't hate when people are like getting into like the trending meme coin, and they're posting some pictures of their PFP with hats, or when Pepe was going, like, people like, I'm not mad at it. Like, I don't give a fuck. What I do think is kind of scary and a little dangerous is when a lot of these group chats, I'm gonna just tell, this is what happens because I've seen it time and time again. And at this point, I've made a little bit of money on meme coins, but I'm gonna make my money from content and building, and I have things that I'm working on. That's where I'm gonna make. I know I'm not gonna make a lot of money trading meme coins because I just am bad at it. Just frankly, like, there's people who are much better. I'm basically playing like basketball at a third grade level, and these people are like NBA players dunking on me. So it's completely different. But what happens inevitably with a lot of these group chats, because I'm in a ton of them, is they start very organic. It's like, hey guys, this shit's kind of popping off. Like, let's go work together, see if we can find the new stuff. Right. So then you start finding a couple of things, people start to make some money, people get excited. Inevitably, it turns into, hey, let's add more people to the chat because more equals better. More and more people come in. And inevitably, these chats turn into basically exit liquidity, where the people who are either running the chat or were there early are now just launching their own shit and like putting it in the chat, and the chat becomes exit liquidity. So these chats have very limited life cycles, and I think you need to really recognize that when you're being added to them, because, and it usually, by the way, usually happens like, let's say a cycle is 4 weeks. It might not be, but let's just say a meme coin cycle is 4 weeks. Typically in the third week, so let's say the third quarter, that's when it starts to be like, all right, people in this chat are launching shit. These are not just like random organic coins anymore. These are MFers in here waiting for the next Elon tweet or the next fucking whatever tweet to like come up with a name to put it in there. So I do think people really need to be careful because, yeah, it turns from everything in the chat is a winner to basically nothing in the chat is a winner, and you're just losing money on everything. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, so one of my closest friends in the space, his name is Wayne Newton, and I talk on the phone really often, like very, very close. He's a great one-of-one artist. You should go check him out. But he and I were talking about like this meme coin cycle, and we were talking about like different things that we're kind of looking at, and like if we're participating, if we're not. And something that AD from Leverage Labs always kind of has in the back of my brain is like, what are people not talking about right now? And what could I be getting ahead of the curve in that other people aren't talking about right now that's going to give me an edge in whatever the next cycle is? So, something that Wayne had mentioned that he was doing was like looking at undervalued NFTs that we think that have stood the test of time, that have legs on Solana, and going to protocols like Sharkify or like other loan aggregators that are in the space and loaning out Solana for these NFTs. So we either end up with the NFTs that we believe are way undervalued right now because people have thrown everything into meme coins. And so, like, truthfully, I've been playing meme coins a little bit, but like, I'm mostly just like playing other stuff that I feel like other people aren't doing right now, which I think is could like if you feel like you're not good at meme coins, which honestly most people aren't. Like I think that that's something that people don't talk about out loud a lot is
The
like
blockchain
most
don't
people are
lie.
not good and are losing money. Like everyone acts like they're making money at meme coins and like the majority of people are losing money. And so during these cycles it's like okay, what like if you could just like face yourself in the mirror and be like okay, I'm not good at this. Like, maybe this isn't my play. What could I be doing that's going to stack my bag if that's my goal? You know what I mean? And like for me, like playing a little bit around with shitcoins is the play, but like what is going to help stack my bag? And for me, that's like loaning NFTs. Like that could be something else for you, like putting money in a conviction play. I
So,
think that that's something that nobody's talking about right now.
so Amy,
Hmm.
you're. I'll even follow it up by this. Like, let's say you're a basketball player and you score one full court shot. Like, you just Hail Mary it. It's a full court shot, perfect swish, it goes in. But if that's the only, and then you don't make any other shots in the game. So yeah, you made an incredible shot, but you would not be considered a good basketball player just for making one. It's about consistency, and I think with meme coins, especially, I mean, just really, it's more life in general. Um, the initial win is not hard; it's keeping the money, dude. I can't tell you the amount of times where I was up. Not like a huge. I mean, I never have that much liquid. I'm not rich. I don't have that much liquid to play around with. But let's say I make like a couple ETH here or whatever it might be. I always end up losing a lot of it because I end up just like, it's so hard to keep it just because one play went well. If you lose a couple times in a row, you're fucked. So this is what I say. Like there was that one person that made so much money on Dog with Hat. They like pulled out $1 million or whatever, and whoever that is, dude, fucking keep put a lot of that in the bank and save money for taxes, and then play around with a small amount of it. Like I hope that people are keeping some money for
Yep.
taxes because, yeah, dude, the taxes are a big part of this, and you never know how much you're gonna have to pay into the end of the year, and then you get hit with a massive tax bill. And many projects in the space face this as well, where it's not just one, it's happened to many where they made a lot on the mint and they did not account for taxes. And when tax season came around, they did not have the money to pay for it. And it puts projects in a really weird position. It's happened to many projects. So something to think about. But not 100% agree, Amy. And people need to be careful. Also, by the time you see it on the timeline, typically it's too late. Not always, right? Like people were posting Dog with Hat at 50 mil and you could have thought that was too late and it still ran after that. So you never know. You never know. But you got to be careful. I want to throw it quickly. Go ahead, Irvin, and then we'll go over to Zico.
Yeah, Leaf, I'm going to bounce for a little bit. But on that note, look, I think the difference between this bull cycle, right, this mini bull cycle and the previous one is that in the last one, it proved that people will rotate their money from ETH to something else like Solana, right? But you did not see the money rotating so much to the other L1s, etc., right? But at this point, right, ETH money rotated to Avalanche. It rotated back to Solana. It even rotated back to Sui and Aptos. Like when I was looking at plays, I told everyone I was like, "Hey, just fucking buy probably Aptos NFTs, Suya NFTs, and just fucking wait." And I got like 1,000 APT airdrop, right? Because I hold Aptos monkeys and bra bears and stuff like that. But this happened just like this cycle, right? This little cycle happened where actual money rotated to the other chains. There's like more wallets being created across the other chains than we had last time. If you look at Avalanche, for example, right, it did almost also like a 10x up to $40 from their bottom at $4. And for example, for me right now, I'm like, okay, well, probably what's the next one? And I'm seeing people now. I'm looking at the chains like on Polkadot, et cetera, right? I'm probably gonna open up a long there because I know people are gonna be scoping out the other ones and so forth. But it's a bit of a completely different meta than last time. We're only rotated to Solana and the L2s, right? Not as much as the other L1s. That's my take. But gonna bounce for a little bit.
Thanks, Irvin. Really appreciate you coming up. Also, something that I gotta just speak on this for a second is the Solana phone. First of all, I'm an idiot, and I don't own one because I'm a fucking idiot. So if you ever think I'm like some goated crypto guy, I'm not. I'm just trying my best, just like anybody else. And I don't own one. I do not own one, and I really wish I did. And Amy, look, you deserve a lot of credit because you were fucking shilling that shit at $400, whatever the hell, and now they're going for 5K. And it's just like an interesting paradigm shift where you have these IRL products or hardware or whatever it is, and you can pair them up with the digital. It's not like we haven't seen it before, but in the way that's happening now is really interesting. And something that I noticed, so I've been talking about DPIN stuff a little bit here and there in the space from like a month ago, and because I just started to think about it, I'm like, maybe that could be something in this cycle. But I wasn't even considering the fact that helium would have this massive pump in attraction because of the Solana phone. And I've said this a few times. Like 2 weeks before all this shit happened with the Solana phone, I had a call with the head of the Helium Foundation, and we were talking about, whatever, and just seeing if there's like some potential, whatever, like just trying to learn more. And at that time, I was like, fuck, helium is like kind of big already, but like, let me see what else I could find. And I ended up finding like a couple other, and I'm not even going to name them because I don't want people to go buy them because they could go to zero. Who fucking knows? Like, go do your own research. There's a ton of other DPIN, like decentralized Wi-Fi, whatever the fuck. There's a lot of it. So, but I was looking at a couple of them, and I bought a few. And then when the Solana phone happened, I was like, dude, helium's going to get a lot of attention because of this, because they're integrated natively, all this stuff. And I'm not saying I think helium's going to work or not, because truthfully, it's such a hard business to build, so who knows? But yeah, I bought a couple of these other similar projects, and they all went fucking ballistic. All of them went just crazy in terms of returns. They just went stupid. Like everything up like 30% a day, 40% a day. And I didn't put a huge amount of money in, but it was nice to see returns there. And I took some stuff off the table because I think maybe that cools down for a little bit. But I don't know, man. There's a look at like what Irvin was saying. Look at some of the comparables when one thing pumps. A lot of that typically rotates into the competitors or quote unquote derivatives, however you want to look at it. So look, I want to throw it over to Zico, and then we're going to Naveen. Zico, what do you think?
Yo, what's up? Hey, so yeah, there's so much going on right now that I'm trying to just I want to try to keep it as concise as possible. So a couple of things like I wasn't this deep into shitcoins in 2019, let alone 2020. I mean, I didn't really start learning about shitcoins until this year, to be honest. I'm curious, like if other people who were around in 2019, and I know the ecosystem was a little bit different back then, but I'm wondering, like, if anybody has
What is there to learn?
What do you mean?
Like, what is there to learn about shitcoins?
Nothing about it's not about shitcoins. It's about the way that like human nature and behavior doesn't change. Like the technology changes rapidly, the shitcoins
AKA,
change all the time, but the
AKA people
behavior,
like to gamble.
yeah, well, for sure. I mean, I know you were around in 2019. Were there as many options as there are right now back then? And was each kind of
Pro rata to number of people participating, probably yes. But I mean, there were in 2017 too, and before that there were non-tokens, but just layer one protocol bullshit things before that. But it's literally just gambling, guys. It's really nothing more.
Hold up.
Absolutely. I mean, part of it is okay. So the other thing I was gonna say is like there are definitely some main characters, some people with who are very loud about Solana, but it's not like they've just started getting loud about it. They've been talking about it for the better part, if not more than a year. And those are the people like not even fuck it. I don't know if I should say names, but like one person who I really look up to and whose opinion I take into consideration is Chris Bruniski, because he's not like as deep into all of this. Like he's I think he has a perspective that he's not. It doesn't seem like he's playing with the shit coins. It doesn't seem like he's gambling. It seems like he's taking a bigger.
No. No, it's gambling. Like, don't
Well,
even convince yourself
with
of the
Solana,
illusion. Solana itself is not gambling, but
yeah.
shit
Well,
coins
that's
are
what I'm
gambling.
saying. No, that dude. That's like, let me
I mean,
be clear about.
and even Solana, I wouldn't say I wouldn't insult Raj and Anatoly to say it's gambling, but it's you. Solana has an interesting. There's a lot of interesting things about Solana that make it an interesting layer one blockchain, but beyond that, a lot of this is a lot of the stuff that was talked about is gambling.
Okay, so
For
let me
sure.
say, um, I think it's. I mean, I agree that. I mean, a lot of this stuff is gambling. I mean, everything in
No,
gambling.
but don't convince yourself of the illusion that it's anything else, because once you do, like you think that you can be smarter than like another gambler. It's like you're sitting at a blackjack table with five people, and maybe one person has counted the deck, and like they might win and you might lose because you're all facing the house, and but the guy counting the deck doesn't even really give a shit about you, but he's telling you what to do because he's counting cards and he's giving you advice. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's like shitcoins. It's like the group chat is the guy who can count cards. You're sitting next to that guy and he's just manipulating you so he improves the probability of him winning against the dealer. That's shitcoins.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think this is degenerate gambling at its finest. But I also think that you can influence the odds maybe a little bit more than just somebody sitting at a poker table. I think that
No,
I,
no.
I mean, I'm telling you from my experience. I think all the
I,
information.
I I have a lot of experience. Listen, I got almost like fuck. I don't know how many. This is recorded space. I've gotten so many dollars worth of free tokens in my life just for putting my name on something, and then it going live 5 years later. Most of the time I believed in it, but one particular time I didn't, and like ungodly amounts of money for free because other people are propping up the value and gambling on the thing that I'm just literally dumping. Like I'm not even like I have no shame. I get shit for free, I dump it. I have I ever you could look through my Twitter feed. I have very, very, very rarely promoted anything. It just so happens that someone wants to gamble on the thing that I got for free. And having that experience firsthand, um, it's scary how humans can behave with this stuff. My favorite story, and I'm not shy to say it, this is maybe my number one, um, was me investing in a Ripple fork that a winner of my NFT auction, who I highly respect as an investor, convinced me to invest in. It's a protocol called Flare, and if you invested in Flare, you were in, and I think Ripple holders as well were entitled to this like testnet Songbird token airdrop or whatever. And when I got the airdrop, it was literally $1 million. I invested 50K. I didn't fucking like, and then it kept going up. I just like fucking dumped that shit. It was free. It wasn't even the thing that I invested in. But people were speculating on it because it XYZ group chat person saying this, that, or whatever. Like, I, I guess I'm just trying to say, don't
The
convince
homie
yourself
just
that you can do
compared
anything smart in
shitcoins with doing
shitcoins.
drugs. I'm
It's just
fucking
you're like dealing drugs on a blockchain and trying to like one up the next person who's sold it to you at a lower price. Like
Yeah, of
it's
course,
fucking psycho.
of course, of course. But look, there are some people who can go to, and I'm not defending the gambling, but I also think just because something is gambling does not make it inherently dangerous for everybody. I think there's some people that can
No, no,
responsibly,
no.
like,
It's fine if you know that it's gambling when you're going into it, and AKA you're prepared for any dollar amount that you put in to be zero. Then go have fun. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't discourage it unless you're like putting 90% of all your fucking cash into some fucking shit. If you want to play around and have a good time with your friends and like shitcoin away, like power to you. But don't for a second think that it takes any intelligence to make it, because it does not.
okay, I would agree with 98% of that statement, but there are some people that are not me, by the way, but there are some people that are genuinely pretty good at noticing trends and being early to things, and they do it consistently over a
Okay,
long.
but being early to things is not being early to a shitcoin. Being early to things is like fundamentally believing in some, usually a team of people that's doing something a little bit different, and like maybe it's like Evan Chang, who's the founder of Sui, who was previously at Meta, or Mo, who's the founder of Aptos, who was also at Meta, right? Like two really interesting approaches. that, currently have tokens that are trading, and they have huge developer teams, or even like, Naveen's company, Tari, who, Naveen founded the company with one of the original core Monero devs, fucking legend, Ricardo, and Tari's going to launch soon, and I invested in Tari because I believe in their team. That's not gambling because I know the people behind it. I believe in what they're building. I know over a long period of time it's going to work, or they're going to do their best to make it work, and that's all startups. And that's like more intelligent gambling. It's still like to an extent gambling, but it's gambling with more information.
So
When
now,
you're investing in a shitcoin, there's an inherent information asymmetry, right? AKA, like there is literally no purpose to this thing. There is no team of people that's putting effort into building it, and it is literally just a Ponzi of human belief. So that's the difference, right? Like you can be early to something because you believe in people that are behind building something significant, or you could just hop on the fucking, you know, Ferris wheel of death.
I mean, I think there's different degrees to it, right? Because, like, let's say I get an opportunity to write a 25K check for some whatever fucking protocol that's coming out. And a lot of these opportunities are coming my way right now. I'm finally at the point in kind of my crypto career where I can write some checks and look around but it's still gambling. It's like, even if the idea is cool, the team's solid, there's like a
Yeah,
certain.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
It's with
is a form of
speculating.
it.
It's
It's
speculation.
gambling is okay. So let's just define the difference between gambling and speculation. Um, Speculation is believing value changes based on certain information that you have that you believe the rest of the world hasn't gone on to yet. Gambling is maybe 50-50 shot and or, maybe whatever the fucking odds are. There is literally no information I have that gives me a unique advantage over someone else in this equation of putting my money somewhere. That's gambling. Gambling is I have no information that actually benefits me unless I'm like participating in the Ponzi, at which point it is still gambling. It's just more Ponzi-nomic gambling. Whereas investing is I have information that I think other people don't have, and I want to be first to it, first to this opportunity. That's the difference.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think we're aligned there. Um, and I, by the way, I do agree, and I've said this 1,000 times. 9.8 out of people out of 10. I don't care if you've had one win or 5 wins. You probably lose your money over time with shitcoins. But I also refuse to believe that there isn't an inherent skill in some of these like high performance shitcoin traders. Like there are some of these people who just, and maybe it is information or maybe it's whatever, but there are people who are doing really well over a long period of time.
Dude, it's so not true.
There
I,
are
I
They
people.
take so many losses
It
though. Like that's
it does
No,
no.
no, 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 no.
I
Hold on.
I
If
win.
just a shitcoiner who doesn't do other things is either manipulating other human beings to their advantage, and so it's not true intelligence, it's just Ponzi-nomics, or they've actually lost and they continue to just chill shit,
Okay.
and you've
Most
never seen their wallet.
no. Most people, I would say 99. Look, all I'm saying is that we can't just have absolutes. Can we at least
Let me
agree there
post
that there
Neo's
aren't any
board. You
No,
can
no,
absolutes?
post
no.
your
I'm
wallet
trying. What I'm trying to say is shitcoining
or a
is
thread.
absolutely gambling and takes absolutely zero skill, and the only skill that's involved is manipulating other humans to buy after you. Literally.
Okay, I would agree 99.9%, but there are some people, you don't think there's some people that are just good at it?
Leap,
No.
leap, leap. Justin lives in Las Vegas. Okay, he is straight up right. People who walk into the casino and are gambling at the high stakes tables and look like they're fucking rock stars and getting all the comps from the casinos, th- they may win from time to time, for sure. People certainly win in the casinos, but the casinos are very smart. And if people keep coming back to the casino, inevitably they begin to lose. And there's literally no difference between anything that's happening with regards to shit coins and literally what happens in like the Bellagio. It's like literally the same fucking thing.
All right, let me pitch this then. Let me pitch it. And we have hands, so we'll go with the hands. But let me pitch this.
The only thing I would say to that, and the mean is 100% right, is in poker. In poker, there is a degree of skill that can give you an edge, and you're not always playing against the house. You're playing against other people, and that I feel like. Uh, oh my god.
All right, hold
I
on.
guess I'm just trying. I'm just trying to like prevent people from doing like I don't know. Okay,
let me
let
let me
me
say
let me get to the point. I'm gonna last thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna shut my ass. Um, you are so much better off like doing a little bit of research on some things that you think have fundamental value and spraying across like a certain amount of capital across Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, even, and then other stuff, and literally never looking at it for like don't look at it for 3 years. Guarantee you will be better off doing that than trying to fucking trade in the short
I,
term, unless you have a huge following and you're shilling shit coins and you know, using other human beings as exit liquidity and being immoral.
I don't disagree with that in any way. I also agree that the people who make the most money typically are people who have conviction in things and wait a long time. That's just what we've seen. Now, I think I'm just arguing just for the sake of arguing because I haven't done a space in a couple days. So fuck it. Like this is a sport.
Oh no, I love it. It's fun.
Let me pitch it this way. This is the last way I'm pitching it. Throwing the last pitch here. Do you not think there was a certain group of people, and would you say there was some aspect of skill to this, that recognized that Bonk was going to be a big play in
Yo,
Solana,
Neosporin, I
that
just
had
sent
conviction
you
on
I just
Solana, and that
DM'd you.
understood that
All
other
right,
It's still
let me
open
take a
on
big step
some.
back about let's talk
Mine
about
personally got
Bonk
full. I'm
in the
trying to get
context of
approval from the
something else
team
that I can relate to.
to see if
my
I can
goodness.
reopen
All right,
it.
I'm
But
ready.
No, it's fine. Like people called Bonk. What percentage of people ever talk about their losing streaks versus talk about their winning streaks? How many other things have people called that did not succeed? Like there were some people that called that Bonk would succeed, and it did. I don't even know what the fuck Bonk is, but it doesn't even really matter because think about how many other things people have called to succeed that haven't succeeded, right? The problem is people are always louder about their wins than their losses. And in most cases, like, I don't know, I have like 60 portfolio companies. I believe in all of the teams. Maybe five. I'm very lucky that like 10% are actually working because typically it's a way lower rate than that. Um, but I'm not like screaming over the mountaintops about like to tell people to go buy something that I invested in at a seed level because I feel like that's like sort of immoral. Like, imagine, right? Like, I think it's pretty immoral if you're unless you're like posting fundamental content about what a team is doing that's like really really cool. Telling people to go buy something that you're invested in is already like pretty fucked up if you think about it. Unless you're selling it to them and it's like a product. Um, yeah, like like if I own X amount of Coinbase stock and I'm like, yo, go fucking tell all your friends go buy Coinbase, like that's fucked up, right? That's already pretty fucked up. Do I believe in Coinbase long term? 100%. Have I rode Coinbase from the top to the bottom back to where it is today? 100%. Like I'm not telling the whole world to go buy fucking Coinbase. That's the difference
Okay.
is once a person calls, once a person publicly says, I think this is going to do X, it usually means in the case of a shitcoin that they've loaded a bag and they're just trying to fucking pump their bag. And 99% of the time, unlike Bonk, it doesn't go to the moon. And only 1% of the time the thing that people call actually goes up. And
Hold up. I 100% agree with you, but I don't think that was the question. I think the question is more so. And by the way, 99 instances of one thing does not invalidate an instance of another. I think it's like a non sequitur. It's not a fair argument to make. What I'm saying is there skill at all in somebody recognizing Bonks' relevance to the NFT ecosystem on Solana, understanding what that team was doing by watching from the sidelines, not privy to any
yo,
insider
you want to answer
information,
Leap's
and
question?
estimating that if Solana did
can I
well,
ask you a question? Does Bonk do anything?
you can't
Hey,
answer.
I would just say quickly, I don't think that Bonk is a good example in this instance because Bonk is like a decently supported by Foundation. Like Austin Federa mentioned it when he was like on television. Like it's an ecosystem token at this point. It's like not a meme coin. Like
That's the
they
exact.
they
What
like
what does it
they
do?
No, hold up. This is the point I'm trying to. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make, Amy. Like I'm not like 99% of the time I agree. Like if someone is shilling a shitcoin on Twitter, they own it and they're going to dump on you, and there's not really any skill there.
but
People
it
are
but it did come
whatever.
off as a shitcoin early days. Like it
I
really what like
But
it was a
what does
shitcoin
Bonk
that
do?
became
Because
something
I
bigger
don't
than that.
know. I legitimately don't know.
Bonk is essentially the coin that a handful of people in the ecosystem that have really strong standing all got together, put this coin together, dropped it to people right after FTX to like help bring back sentiment, and then they built
No, but like, what does the actual token do? Is it like a
It's a
fee? Is it
meme. It's a meme.
it's
so I mean,
it's a meme token, but it is like a
okay? So it
community
doesn't do
token, but
anything.
Okay, no,
it doesn't do anything
Okay,
well,
great.
because
So
can
so
you
that
say
means
memes? Can you say memes
they're
don't do
building
anything
tooling
though?
and things that exist within the Solana ecosystem
what kind of
It's a
around it.
tooling?
SPAC. It's a
Like
SPAC.
mergers with Magic Eden and mergers with exchange
Does
art and like
Magic
mergers
Eden
with other things
is Magic Eden's development team working on like some functionality for Bonk?
like they are integrating bonk functionality into things that they're doing, so you could purchase things with bonk. Same thing with exchange art same thing with other
It's basically
they're
Doge
like
on
it's
Solana.
being like fully integrated into a bunch of different things, and they are making it more like an ecosystem token than it is like a meme coin at this point.
no, but
And
I
like
don't even know what
foundation is
ecosystem
like
token
It,
means.
it, it means
it
they're
I mean
looking
like
for more
I
extra
honestly
liquidity. That's what it means
It's
by
a
pairing it
meme, but
to
strong.
marketplaces and integrating it in other platforms. That's what
It's a
it's looking for.
strong meme.
Flip, can I come in, please?
all right, hold on. Let me just. I've been asking a simple question here, and it's going all over the place.
Well,
I
the answer was
agree.
no. It's a simple answer. It doesn't do anything.
What does it do?
Okay,
Bullish.
yeah, that's
It
bull.
doesn't do nothing. It's a meme coin. That's just the truth.
Wait, can
The
we
thing
talk
that is,
about this in the context of Bored Apes? Because I actually think it's pretty important.
All right,
Because like
you're not
What
in the
do
getting.
they
context of
do?
Bored Apes, why did Bored Apes explode? Um, because they were the first unique identifier type project on Ethereum ever to assign IP to the buyers. And at the time that the mint was happening, apes were $200, and anyone who I like there were group chats of people that were genuinely interested in the fundamental ownership ramifications of like what wallet plus NFT looks like when you actually own the IP underlying the image. And basically when apes launched, there was this giant wave within the existing community of like, whoa, this is pretty innovative. This is the first time a token like really assigns IP, and that means this could be cool one day. And like that's like fine because it wasn't mimetic. It was mimetic in its marketing, but not in its sort of fundamental value. Like the idea of this being the first of its kind was pretty interesting. And then following that, right? Like Yuga did do a lot of stuff. Are people mad at Yuga for XYZ reasons? Sure. But remember, the apes were $200. I think people forget that sometimes. And they only made, I think, $3 million from the initial sale. Has Yuga created more than $3 million worth of value in total? Absolutely they have. And mostly for OpenSea. But besides that, um, that's a different equation to like, here's a fungible token meme thing that we're going to pool liquidity for and convince people to buy it. And you literally could not convince me that a founder of a meme coin was like for the most part that reputable of a person. In fact, I would like if you choose to develop a meme coin, unless you're like an anon, you're risking so much for your reputation within like the really cool crypto people who are trying to change the world. Like that community hates the meme coin like fucking founders because it's it sort of like defeats all the effort that the cool people are trying to like actually build real
Okay, but
tech
that's not okay. I
But that's
agree
for.
that's why most
with.
of them are anon because they know the backlash of the whole
Yeah,
of that,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
and
that's right.
most of them are just it's just their alt project, their side project to make some few more bucks, right?
Bro, do you guys remember fucking TRX? Like, I mean, it still exists, obviously, and Justin still exists, obviously, but like, fucking Tron, bro. Oh my god, the OG. I wouldn't say it's the like Doge is the OG meme coin, but like, fuck, TRX was something else, man.
You could ask that the same question. What does TRX do? Well, TRX is the main
Sorry, Justin. I
the,
think he
the main
follows
the
me on
main
Twitter.
the main stable coin used for illicit funding for terrorist financing. So that's a nice utility to have. Besides that had a whole narrative back in the day with like was it the guy from Alibaba is good. This is going to be the next thing because
I
of
remember. You
Alibaba.
remember that shit? You
Dude,
remember that
it was
shit?
all over the place. Yeah, the fact that I still know
Anyway,
that is insane.
so I'm gonna shut up after this. But the only point I'm trying to make is if you're buying a shitcoin, just recognize that you're going to the casino. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Blah
Do
blah
not for a
blah.
second.
I would add
Yeah,
this, dude.
yeah.
That is the skill indeed. Recognize it as for what it's worth. But I think the real skill is once you make proper gains, be the person that walks away from the table and calls it a night. Don't then go with the gains to the blackjack and to the this and to the that and then lose it all again within the same fucking night, because now you're back at one. And that's what a lot of people do when they start shitcoining. I think the skill is really making the gains and getting up and calling it a night then.
That's a good take. I actually agree with that. Here's a question, and we will go to the hands. You just got.
I also love you, Leap. I love you so much.
No, I love you too. Also, I got down this weird rabbit hole because like Andrew Schultz was beefing with like the Fresh and Fit podcast guys, and there's this like comedian that was like posting that Andrew Schultz was basically stealing jokes from him, blah blah blah, and took me down this weird Wikipedia rabbit hole. And I'm just reading about this. It's like this streaming platform that's blockchain integrated, and it's it's become like a home of like neo Nazis and like fascists and like all this like crazy shit. And I'm reading this Wikipedia about it, and like way at the bottom, it's like, and then Justin Sun and Tron bought it, and they have been running it ever since.
Steam.
Yes, exactly. It's called the D Live now. And by the way, it just made me remember it. But what the hell is what is Justin Sun doing? I feel like he's like an arch villain. I don't even know what the hell he's doing, but he clearly has a lot of money.
I think he just launched a meme coin, right? Did you guys see that tweet?
What? He launched a meme coin? This is
Yeah, check it out.
Justin, I believe Justin was the other bidder in the people auction. I'm like pretty certain that he lost, but
Yeah, he just want to invest so much in meme now on Tron. Like meme on Tron is actually running now.
okay. So here's a good point. Does anybody agree or disagree? I mean, I'm just seeing what people think. Do you think that meme coins or just like mimetic culture in general is one of the stronger onboarding tools we have to different crypto ecosystems? Because I personally think it can be. I think it
For
can
me,
be.
yes.
I think it can be. There's a lot of people whose first coin.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I don't think it's necessary. By the way, I never once.
Wait, I think you're rugging a little bit.
Doing the robot.
I
wanted to say this last bit.
I wanted to say this last bit. I'm going to
jump back down. I'm going to jump back down to the audience real quick. But I brought up Chris Berniski because he said something that I thought was really profound. And he basically said that, like, crypto is like soap. The more you touch it, the less of it you have. And that applies fucking wholeheartedly to this whole fucking discussion about, like...
What?
How
does that make any sense?
No,
the more you touch it, the less of it you have. What do you mean? A bar of soap, the more you touch it, the less of it you have.
Wait. Oh, now I understand.
I actually think that's kind of...
So don't drop the soap, you guys. All right?
Okay. That's not what we're doing. All right, look, we're gonna reset the space, and then we're gonna jump to the hand. So welcome everybody. $1,000 soul, is it imminent? I have no clue. Look, if you're enjoying anything about the conversation, click that button in the bottom right-hand corner or the pinned tweet at the top and give it a like, comment, or retweet. It's literally the best and only way to support the space. And please follow the speakers as well, because we can't do it without them. We're throwing it straight to Naveen. Naveen, what did that gentleman call you on the stage the other day? The penguin? They're going straight to the penguin. Naveen, what do you think about this whole thing?
So a couple things. So betting on people is absolutely fundamentally different than betting on random meme coins. One of the things that's really powerful about betting on people is typically when you bet on people, there's a longer time horizon. Like my most successful investments ever have been betting on people and then having those investments be illiquid for a significant period of time because I can't touch the soap. Like I can't do anything with it. So, like getting Solana tokens at like whatever 20 cents or whatever it is and just sitting on it pays way more dividends than like trying to grow the bag, trading in and out of things. Like angel investing or participating in rounds of financing for various things has absolutely been a much better path to like making it than like trading. That's the first thing. Second thing is my sort of perspective on our space has evolved quite a bit over the last, several months, as it relates to, frankly, like what people in this industry really want, and then just my own experience in human psychology building consumer products. So the first thing I'll say is that I've built lots and lots of different consumer products and done lots of things in the e-commerce space. And whenever you introduce more friction for people in anything, so I'll give you an example. Building a website, if you set up like a landing page and then ask people to click on something to get to the next page, you will instantly lose 50% of the people. Like 50% of the people, full stop, will not click the button. So the more steps you introduce, the fewer the number of people that will convert. And that's just a known thing. Like if you've never built a consumer product before or you've never like run that kind of an experiment, that is just a known factual thing. There are many people in the crypto industry who don't really understand that or don't believe that, but that is just factual. Okay, that's number one. Number two, there's many, many different ways to speculate and gamble in our industry. So one way to gamble, for example, is farming airdrops. You move a bunch of tokens around, use a bunch of services, even though you don't have any conviction in those things, you just move money around because you're expecting that those things will have tokens and they'll deliver rewards for you just running experiments. And whether you're using a bot or whether you're actually doing it yourself, it doesn't really matter. They want to try to weed out the bots, but it doesn't really matter. That's one way of essentially gambling. You're gambling with your time. You're gambling with your time and you're gambling with your tokens, and that's cool. Another way to gamble is to be a facilitator of gambling. So that's where, you provide liquidity to a DeFi protocol. You're essentially facilitating gambling and you're gambling yourself. It may be viewed as lower risk, or there's a lower chance of, of loss or whatever your view is on that. But it is still gambling, and it is sort of gambling in a manner where you are facilitating gambling. And then the last way to gamble is to just straight up buy assets, like straight up buying assets. And that could be meme coins, that can be NFTs, that can be, social fi, whatever. It doesn't matter, like all these things. Okay, so then the final thing that just, really kind of dawned on me is, the reason why I think Solana is interesting in this moment, and I've ragged on Solana for a very long time for many, many reasons. Centralization, tokenomics, various technical things. Like so many things are closed source. Like I could go on and on and on. Oh, it's a surveillance chain. Like there's a million things I could say that are negative about Solana. But the reality is that there's a group of people in our industry that really, really, really love to gamble. And that's cool. Like, that's not being negative about that or anything. It's just like, it's just true. There's a lot of people who love to gamble. And the thing that's interesting about Solana at this moment in time is it is faster, it is cheaper, and it is actually, believe it or not, safer in many cases to gamble on Solana than it is to gamble anywhere else. And it is also lower friction. So what's happening with Solana right now, which is really interesting to me because I'm just observing human behavior, and sort of looking at all the cope and all that on the timeline, is that okay? So Solana is written in Rust, and all the smart contracts in Solana are written in Rust. So there's like more generally speaking more memory safety with Rust. Lower risk of reentrancy attacks. With Solana smart contracts, like you have objectively generally speaking, I'm not saying you can't write bad software in Rust. You can, but it is easier to make mistakes in Solidity, generally speaking, than it is to make those same mistakes in Rust. And so you have therefore a lower probability of getting rugged, or rather there being exploits in smart contracts in Rust on Solana. So that's like a really interesting thing. Like that's a really interesting thing that people aren't really talking about very much, but it's factually true when you are specifically comparing Rust and Solidity. Another thing that's like factually true is that using Solana to gamble is lower friction than using Ethereum L2s, right? So if you have to go on ETH and you have to like move money around, bridge money to different L2s, and then gamble on Arbitrum, and then gamble on Base, and then gamble on ZK Sync, and then gamble on Optimism, or whatever the fuck it is, whatever the chain it is, that takes more steps, and you will have lower conversion in those steps because that's just basic human nature. Now, people may be gambling with their time, and sure, people want to bridge to ZK Sync because they're expecting a huge airdrop from ZK Sync, and that's going to drive people to like propel them through the friction. Like, okay, I'm going to do this friction thing because I'm gambling with my time, and I'm assuming I'm going to get an airdrop at the end of it, so it's worth my time to go through the pain, even though it is objectively lower friction to gamble on Solana. So I think what's happening in the market, like this is just my, read, is that these blockchains today, the primary use case, like the number one dominant use case for all protocols out there, full stop, is speculation. That is the dominant use case today. Now, I'm not saying that's right, wrong, indifferent. I'm just saying that's the dominant use case today. The one exception to the rule is maybe Bitcoin with store of value. But generally speaking, the dominant use case in our industry today is speculation. And when it comes to speculation and sky casinos, Solana today is the best sky casino. It is just objectively the best sky casino. It's faster, it's cheaper, lower friction, and generally speaking, probably a little bit safer, given the nature of how smart contracts are written on Solana, the programming language that's employed, etc. So to me, it's a very, very interesting time because you know there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out what the next metas are, what the next things are, and in my opinion, most of the things people care about right now are just essentially speculation related, and they're just trying to figure out how to make a bag, how to get rich as fast as they can, and whether it's owning a Mad Lad and expecting an airdrop from Mad Lads, or whether it's owning a Bodago, or whether it's owning a pudgy penguin, or whatever it is. Everyone's constantly going through this decision tree in their heads of where am I going to make a bag, and is it going to be through gambling time? Is it going to be through facilitating gambling, or is it going to be outright gambling? And everyone in this chat is constantly making those decisions every single day of their lives. And what's happening is more people are starting to decide that the Sky Casino that lives in Solana is a little bit of a better place to go than the Sky casinos that exist on Ethereum. And that's, in my opinion, what is happening.
So I 100% agree with you that if you can, and this might sound like a weird take, but I don't know, but I 100% agree that if you can write checks or get involved, or like you said, you got Solana at 20 cents and all these, but a lot of people, they're coming to crypto, and I'm not defending this. I think I'm just acknowledging as something I see. A lot of people are coming to crypto for their way out of the traditional 9 to 5, which again, gambling. People think the same thing when they walk into a casino. They're coming here because they believe they can escape the matrix, quote unquote, whatever. And for most people, if you have $500, $600, just sitting on something is not gonna. It's just truth is you're just not gonna get these massive returns. You're not gonna change your life. That is just the honest truth. So it is really easy to diminish and just say it's all gambling, and I agree that it's all gambling. But there are people who have figured out how to be privy to information or to just pay attention, be early to something, and go from having literally no money in the bank to 5 figures or 6 figures or even 7 figures,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yes, but
And
Leap,
that's cool. I like that.
Leap, yes, but I think it's very important to be super honest here and say that the number of people who go from having, $100 to $1 million in this industry is an extraordinarily small number of people compared to the majority of people. And
I,
that's part of the game. That's part of the problem in the industry. So when you hear people say that crypto is very PvP, or any of those kinds of statements that people are making, that's basically what they're saying. And yes, of course, is it wonderful for someone to go from having nothing to having everything because they, were early in this industry? Abso-fucking-lutely. I'm not diminishing that in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply saying that along the way, while that person was rising, there are a bunch of other people who are just losing their ass. And that's just really important to note. So, that's because that's how casinos work. That's just how casinos work. You go to the casino and you see someone who wins at slots and they win a $20,000 jackpot, and you're like, oh my God, that's incredible that they won a $20,000 jackpot playing slots. But then you look around at all the other people playing slots that are losing their ass playing slots, and you go, okay, that's just the reality of the casino.
so I mean, I don't disagree in any way. Now, to almost add another section to the conversation, you can definitely gamble with your time as well. Like you mentioned that, right? In the different forms of gambling. And this is what I actually think the best bet is for people who maybe don't have any money in the space or just can't afford to put money in the space, is not to try and go be early on a shitcoin, whatever, because I agree 99.99999% of people, they just will literally lose over a long frame of time. But there is something to be said about people who do just spend a lot of time on this app and do get some sort of fucking, like, I know a couple people who had almost zero money but just were early on ordinals and like minted an OMB and then fucking sold that shit for 60K and just completely changed their life. Like that happened to a lot of people. So I think there is opportunity to like just invest your time and like maybe just be active within communities and just try to
Checks minted for
get
$8.
Leap, that's called grinding. And 100%, I mean, just like people grind in video games and people grind in our industry. And 100%, if you are willing to put in the time and you're willing to get to know people, see, here's the funny thing, right? There's a huge difference between using like whatever deck screener or whatever like your chosen tool is to like just hunt for random tokens looking like at top 10 lists. That is like basically nothing about the team. You're simply looking at like whatever data is being provided by the tool and you're trying to make essentially speculation decisions based on the tool. Okay, and there's a huge difference between that and oh my gosh, I spent so much time. I had a really great conversation with this builder or this other builder or that builder or this designer or whoever it is in the industry. And oh my God, I learned about their project and it's really dope. And because I got to know the person, because I got to know people in that little community, whatever it was, that chat, whatever it is, I now have built conviction in what they're doing. And now I'm going to place a bet, right? Those are two completely different ways of placing bets, right? And I think that's just really important to note also because if you put in the time and you get to know the right people and you actually and you start to build a filter for yourself on who's a scammer, who's real, who's not real, whatever it is, you start to build a little bit of a like filter for yourself, then can you start to pick up people who are parasitic and who, are like, suck your energy and are probably like grifters versus people who are like legitimate builders trying to do things. Yes, of course. And if you build a habit of just betting on people, is that a higher probability way of winning? From my personal experience, I can tell you fuck yes. I can tell you 100% yes. I will bet on people all fucking day over looking at like a tool and picking random for fucking coins from a tool. And that's the key difference. And that's part of the quote unquote gambling of your time is really just grinding in a way.
So I definitely agree with that. And also, if for anybody who's listening and that is the way you're picking shit coins, is you're just looking at deck screener or whatever, you are going to lose 100% of the time. The people who are winning are the people who have honestly, if I'm it really an unfair advantage in terms of information. Like they just like know the people who are long. Like anytime you see, oh, I got in sub 40K market cap, bro, you are either the deployer or the deployer. Don't tell me that you just found that shit. That's almost impossible. Now there are some people who are just like aping zero point 0.5 soul at literally everything that has liquidity in it. But that is so expensive, and I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's tough for most people to do that. Um, but yeah, I agree, and I think we can come to a conclusion here, at least for me personally, that I think that if you someone earlier in the space said they basically only had $500 in Solana, and like, how did they think that was going to work? I think if you only have $500, the best thing you can do is not spend it and keep it and probably just grind the hell out. I like that distinction between grinding and dipping. I think that's a smart point. But just grinding the hell out of this platform, getting to know people, and then getting opportunities that way. That to me, if you only have $500, that's the move. That's how I found success. I did not find any level of success through trading.
Yeah.
It just
The the
never
the
happened.
other little final point I'll make really fast is that we live in an industry that's filled with stories. So I'll give you an example of a story. There's a story that surrounds Ethereum around provenance, right? Like, okay, Ethereum is the first, smart contract blockchain, and it has provenance. Like, oh, CryptoPunks, has provenance. Okay, do I personally agree with that story? Yes, I do personally agree with that story. I think there's tremendous value in being first. I think there's tremendous value in like the age of things and and those things like staying relevant and being reinvented in people's minds. Like that those kinds of stories tend to accrue tremendous value. So I definitely like believe in those stories. But I think it's very important to note also as people are telling stories to each other to just like do your own like check in your heart of like what's your level of conviction in that story. do you really, really believe that story? Like, I've said it many, many times, and I'll say it fucking again. I fucking do not believe in the ETH L2 story. Like, I don't believe in it at all. I think it's like garbage for a million reasons. And there's a bunch of people in this room who straight up disagree with me, and that's perfectly okay. Like, it's totally cool for people to like agree or disagree, and that's totally fine. And what I would urge everyone to do is just like start to learn about where you have like first principles thinking. Like, why do you believe the things you believe? I believe the things I believe, generally speaking, because of my experience, like the things that I've done in my past that have led me to a path, a certain place in my life where I have certain belief systems. And that served me really well. Like, generally speaking, that served me. Does that mean that I certainly miss things? That sometimes I miss things? Yes. Because I'm a human. I'm wrong. Like I'm wrong many, many times. We're all wrong many, many times. Like I'm far from perfect. So I make mistakes and I misjudge things. So I think that's another thing is like the timeline is like this swirling cesspool of stories. It is a swirling cesspool of stories from people who have endless bag bias and they're endlessly trying to show you their point of view. And I just think that is toxic and it's really, really hard sometimes to parse and understand where people are coming from. Are they an early investor in the project? Are they disclosing that? Are they like what is their connection to it? You don't even fucking know half the time because people are not even telling you. So it becomes really, really difficult to understand what is real and what is a mirage.
I 100% agree, and this is why I tried. And we'll go to the hands here. We got to go to Hotshot and Tommy. But this is why I really try to just not mention any. Like, I try not to mention names if I can. Sometimes things you have to, but unfortunately, the timeline currently. I was saying this to somebody earlier today. The timeline has become basically a
What
shill
the
board.
fuck?
Like when you're in school and there's
Collect
those bulletin
4.
boards, and it's like, come join this club,
Yo.
come join this club, pull this piece
Club.
of paper, and
NFT
here's a
also?
phone number for
What the
hot
fuck?
yoga or whatever the fuck.
Collect 4.
That is basically what the
Yo.
timeline has become. It's a bulletin board with people shilling their school clubs, except these school clubs don't ever actually meet. They just steal your money. And it's tough. Like there's very little, I feel like, original writing happening right now. Even from me, I feel like I'm not that inspired. And it's just basically everyone just shilling memes of different coins that they're in and trying to get you in. And if I'm a new participant to the space, that's a very intimidating thing to see when I come in. So, and also a lot of us, we've been here for a bit, we're experienced, and we understand that if someone's telling us something, they probably own a bunch of it and have an incentive to do so. But for brand new people coming in, they don't know that. It takes a while to understand the social dynamics that exist within Web3. Web3, to me personally, is as much technical as it is social. And like you can be successful without understanding the technical aspects for the most part, but you can't really be successful without understanding the social aspects. And considering that it's very difficult to just understand social situations in general, regardless if it's crypto or not, you just IRL, it makes it 10 times more difficult when everyone's behind a picture and you don't know why they're saying what they're saying. So I do emphasize caution to be, and I think you have honestly some fucking banger lines there. I want to throw it over to Hotshot and then we go Tommy. Hotshot, what's up? Good to see you. What do you think about this?
Hey, thanks. I think Tommy was before me, and I think he was waiting a long time. So I'm okay with Tommy going first.
You are a gentleman and a scholar. Tommy, we're throwing it straight to you. What do you think?
Well, that was nice of you, Hotshot. Appreciate that. Cool. I'll just go through it quickly. But so, in regard to gambling, I think the way some people invest, quote unquote, in general, is gambling. We see it in meme coins, and we see it in traditional. It doesn't have to be in crypto. People could gamble by throwing money at stocks. When I see people invest in meme coins, in the first hour they're out, it's gambling, right? If your information's really limited, like there's not much info on the team, absolutely it's gambling. But after a few months, you get a sense of how a team functions, and I think that's legit. And an example here is Pepe. Pepe was really lucky out of the gates, but as we've seen, they really haven't done much with that success they had. So that kind of proves their team isn't as strong. Bonk is the opposite of that. I think Bonk had a slow start, but they busted their butt, over months. They got on 10 chains. They worked really hard at marketing. They're doing Bonkmas right now. It's influencer marketing. It's well done. So you can get a sense of how competent teams are and get an idea that something's going to pop off. And also, there's of course technical analysis. I'm a big believer in technical analysis, and the essence of that is all price volume action. And the technical analysis to the core means you don't have to know what's going on in the company. The charts tell you what's going on. That's some good TA books express that. So, in my experience in crypto, in the end, I got in crypto when there was like 17 coins in crypto. And what I've seen over my time in crypto is, in the end of it, it's really all marketing. I don't really care if a coin does something. I invested in over 50 ICOs, millions of dollars in 2017. They all did something. These were all in-demand projects with pedigreed teams, most completely flunked. So, my experience in crypto has taught me that marketing is number one in crypto. That is the core of what matters, and meme coins are kind of a death match of marketing. It's a very competitive marketing scene, and I'll say too, it's important to recognize our own, you know, resistances. So an example for that for me is Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu went up 1,000,000% in 2021, 10,000 times. It was the best performing crypto in 2021, or certainly one of the best. And I faded it, even though I heard about it a couple times. And that's a lesson for me, because even though I invested in Dogecoin early on, I was just like, Shiba Inu, it's like a copy of Dogecoin, and I had my own resistance to it. And that was a mistake. And I think it's important to recognize our biases and our resistances and have the humility to not stay attached to old beliefs. And that's why like Bitcoin maxis are still Bitcoin maxis, or even ETH maxis that maybe can't see Solana, because they don't allow themselves to see what's going on in the market. We're all guilty of it. I was guilty of it too, of course, too. But I think it's a positive attribute to challenge yourself to see if you're missing something. So, and I'm also a big believer that opportunities in this space only increase with time, not decrease. There's more opportunity than ever. There's going to be a ton of opportunity in this market, and I think it's certainly worth researching and seeing which teams. Yes, finding out which teams, it is about the teams, are basically good at marketing. Because if you're good at marketing, the rest follows. Like Shiba Inu was just a meme coin. They didn't intend to have an ecosystem. They get that big and they build an ecosystem. Same thing's going on with Bonk, right? So, and then I'll just share this, that I think I always look for the merging of technologies. Bitcoin itself was a merging of two technologies, which was proof of work and the private key, public key system. It's the merging of those two technologies. And I'm interested to see meme coins combined with good tokenomics, kind of like DeFi Summer. So that's what I'm waiting to see. Those mergings of technologies can be very powerful. And I think that's the reason why Solana is doing really well right now. I think people may be buying Solana to participate in the meme coin craze, which we saw a surge of that earlier this year on Ethereum with Pepe. But these $10, $20, $50 swaps are really prohibitive to retail traders, and those traders are now flocking to Solana. And I think that trend will continue. So I think that's what's going on right now in the market, like with Solana and the action. And I think meme coins are going to be a strong performing sector. I will say 99% of them are gonna not do well. So it is wise to get a sense of how good the team is at marketing and that they're legit, not a rug pull and all that.
So Tommy, I think it's an interesting point too to compare Pepe and Bonk. So I mean, I missed the Pepe boat. I don't think I made any money on Pepe. I think I bought a couple here and there, but just it. Yeah, I missed the whole boat. I got it called early to me at like $1 million market cap, and just thought it was. Yeah, I mean, meme coins were not pumping in that way until Pepe really popped off. But why do you think Bonk has had more? I mean, like arguably more success in some areas, maybe less success in others. What do you think?
And I don't even know Bonk that well, but you can see evidence of that the team is competent in marketing. Like the Bonkmas thing, they had I forget her name, but there's like a popular influencer who's doing that. It's like it was well done. Like it's well done marketing. And then again, they have put themselves on 10 chains. Like these guys are working hard, and that work compounds. So, I don't. These guys weren't. It wasn't a luck thing for these guys. Like they put the work in, and they eventually got recognized.
I mean, I've said it before, and again, I have a very small amount of bonk. Don't buy or sell or based on anything on what I'm saying, just disclosing I do own some. But I've said it before, and I think that bonk was one of the strongest go to market strategies that we saw for a quote unquote meme coin or a culture coin. It just was the way they did it, the timing that they did it. There were many things that went into why people liked it early on Solana, and obviously just like a lot of ETH liquidity poured into that. But for me, one of the bigger indicators recently was, I'm just telling you from experience, when I was at Breakpoint in Amsterdam just a couple months ago, basically every event was sponsored by them, and everybody that I was talking to, like, and these are like Solana, like big Solana people, have been around for a while, like OGs, things like that. Every single one of them held bonk. Every single one of them liked it, and they were all like super convicted in what it was. And that's when I started to look at it, and I should have bought more. And I'm like, okay, wow, this is not just some like shit coin. Like these people are. This has become a part of the culture on Solana, and maybe it goes to zero. Maybe it fucking doesn't. Who knows? But I'm just saying that that is what I saw in person, and you can take that for what you will. But we'll go to the hands here. Tommy, appreciate you. Some good takes in there. I'm going to throw it over to Hotshot. Hotshot, good to see you up here. I mean, what do you think about this? You've been listening to the conversation for a while. What are your thoughts?
I still think there's a little bit in you that's trying to sort of justify the shitcoinery, where you talk about like bonk like that. It's like why are these people convinced their coin is going to do well? Because they hold the coin. That's why. I want you to find anyone that is truly convinced that bonk is going to be the future's world reserve currency or something like that, that doesn't hold any of it, right? The question is, are you holding it or not? Like that's how these shit coins work. That's why people talk about them. They hold the position, and once they don't hold the position, they stop talking about it, and the eyes go away. And that's, I think Blau was on the ball with most of that. Um, he just didn't touch on the whole insider trading and the process of creating shit coins, and how most of these people have two lives: their main account and their alt account, and how that all works. It's all like a cycle of where do we get more margins? Um, and that's okay. That's just part of the market. I don't judge people that want to do that. But I do agree with Blau that you have to see for what it is. Like if you don't, you're the fool at the table. If you're the type of person that's going to diamond hand any of these meme coins, it's like you're the last man standing. Everyone's already sold. You don't want to be that person. So to each their own. I did want to go back a little bit and talk about. You asked, like, are we in a bull market? You remember that?
Yeah, please. What do you think?
Well, you said like you didn't know if that was true or not, and you were talking about like traders on your timeline were saying that, and I just want to add a little bit to that. Like most traders will tell you that the market is in a bull market when it trades above the 200-week SMA or MA. So whenever you're below that, technically they will say, it's at least a bear market or a bearish downtrend. And when you're above that, 200-week SMA, you're in a bull market, you're in an uptrend. And the real test would be, you go up a bit. Do you go back to the 200-week line? And if you hold it and you go up again, that's when, people will say it's a bull market. Like you test it a little bit and then you go up. So if you ever want to know when people say we're in a bull market and it's traders saying that, it's usually referring to that simple approach. As for the inflows, I think it's good to add because nobody spoke about it yet. But we've had 11 weeks of consecutive inflows, sizable inflows into the market. I track all these inflows, so I have the numbers for every Monday. I get the numbers of the week before. And about 3 weeks ago, we topped at 333 million or so of inflows. And then the week after that, it slashed to about 150 million inflows. And then that's 2 weeks ago, we slashed again. It was below 50 million of inflows. And these inflows mostly went to Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Chainlink, and Polkadot. and then there were very small numbers sort of spread over other stuff. But those were the sort of the main inflows for 11 weeks. So that sort of explains to a degree where most of the money went. And those were also related. If you look at the companies where the inflows came from, they came from companies related to ETF, the ETF companies, and I think it seems like they were increasing their assets under management, probably, for an approval, possibly next month.
So one, I honestly don't know much about the 200-day moving average, so that's good to hear. And I guess that's what people are referring to. I want to also respond to the first part of your take, which I like maybe I'm thinking about things in the wrong way, and that's totally fine. And my opinions do change quite often, but I also think that there is something to be said about mimetic culture and people getting behind something. And a lot of this crypto shit is nothing until it is something. And I think similar things could have been said about a lot of NFT projects and just like a lot of projects in general. It's a group of people that start to believe in something and believe in it so hard that it becomes something. So again,
well, they're made to believe that. That's the difference, right? If you think they believe it out of their own accord, that's different. Then you're down the funnel. So the way shitcoins are created is you have the insiders, which is the team. They deploy. They all get a cut. They have a dev. They have the funnel guys that will funnel the profits, and they have marketeers. And they need the marketeers. These are the people that do the spaces, do the tweets. Those are big influencer accounts. Those run the alpha groups. They also get a cut. So they're incentivized to get that free cut, to pump it up, because that free cut, whatever the percentage is only as valuable as the eyes that get on it and believe it's going to be worth more, right? So they will organically start talking about it on their timeline, on their alpha group, and the people that hold those people that got a cut in high regard may act on it, and they will go, "Oh, the guy I believe said this could be something, and now I believe that." And they go to their friends who are not in on it at all, and they go to their friends, and they all buy a significant chunk, and they start hosting spaces on their own, and that's how the funnel works. And then along the way, as it goes up enough, you unload, ideally strategically, so it doesn't impact the price too much. So the insiders should time it correctly. If they don't, they dump it, and it's a straight up rug. You leave everyone behind, and people lose reputational, get reputational damage, and they do this over and over again. Like they work in teams all the time, and that's how it goes. There's no organic coin that goes to like 500 million market cap uh, without insider spreads and distribution.
I 100,000,000% agree with that. Now, I think to make this conversation more, like we gotta like have a differentiation here. Do you think there's a difference between some? And by the way, the bonk that I have is the bonk that I was airdropped basically a year ago, and it was like worth, you know what I mean? I've just been holding it for a year, and I think that my opinion on it would be pretty similar regardless if I held it or didn't. Um, I am adamant in saying that. Now, when it comes to the other shit, like basically everything else, um, I mean, I agree, dude. I mean, I get probably 100 or honestly, in since this last like month and a half when the tokens are pumping, I probably got $150,000 in inbound requests of probably even more than that of people just wanting to pay me to do spaces for different coins. I didn't even take one of them, and nor would I ever take one of them. Like that is a fuck ton of money, and I would never take one because I just like know this shit is bullshit. And I know like how many people not only like ruin their reputations over it, but like the last thing you want to do is make money at the expense of your community. So like 100, everything that you outlined is 100% accurate. But I guess the question is, do you think there is a point in time when like an SPL or an ERC20 or some coin that it started as like a mimetic thing or a meme coin, a shit coin, culture coin, whatever you want to call it, is there a turning point in which it can become more legitimate, or do you think forever it would just be considered a shitcoin?
Yeah, if they actually, like, the whole play is this already been said, but it's impressions and eyes on it. and you can only juggle that for so long because you're competing for eyeballs, right? And if you peak, there's not enough margins for new people to come in. There's no more greater fools. And when you peak, then how are you going to juggle the eyeballs? Because there's new shit coins launched every day, and they also need the eyeballs, and they have more interesting margins for people that don't have a position yet. So once you lose that momentum, and you haven't made any other moves in that period of time, which could sometimes be months or a year, you haven't done anything else. Eventually, the eyeballs go away.
But I would
So
argue, just to jump in, like I'm listening to this whole conversation. I do agree with you. It's about eyeballs, marketing, the network effect, how many people consider and look at that meme coin to be worth something. The other thing is utility, like going back to what Naveen was saying. Like many people thought that Elon Musk was going to adopt Dogecoin as a payment system for X. And if that happened, you would have a meme coin become a currency, like for paying for services and products on X, right? And then it becomes almost like a reserve currency for this massive network. X is a network, right? And the most successful cryptocurrencies, they thrive off of that network and marketing effect. So,
but that's the same thing, because that's just speculation. You can speculate different ways, right? So the obvious plays are, oh, you have a meme coin, you have nothing yet, and you create. So the next plays are going to be, oh, we're going to get on the low level exchanges. So now, and that's bullish for everyone that's holding before they get on exchanges. Well, that will keep you in the market for a bit. That will grab the eyeballs. What do you do then? Now you get on bigger exchanges that are more respected. You now that the token's gone up, and you use your cut to pay influencers that are prone, that want money. You have them tweet about it, how bullish they are. Then you use that again. You give that to your holders and say, see, these people that have been in the market for years are convinced this is a good play, so they will maybe even buy more. And you play that funnel with headlines, with speculative tweets, with more people you can buy. Ideally, you get some exchange pairs. Yeah, all that top stuff is sort of a different version of the same thing. Like eventually, you're going to have to actually make something that makes you stand out from the market, and that's what Naveen, I think, was
yeah,
referring to. Is
the
like, where's the
utility.
utility, right? Where does
Yeah.
it come in play? And that's what you eventually have to do, I think, because I don't think you can keep the eyeballs for too long. That's what Shiba did as well. I think they eventually ended up making like a real ecosystem and a wallet of sorts and that type of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like Shiba, you have to, how much liquidity do you have to have in that ecosystem in order for it to go to 1 cent? It's like impossible. You'd have to like have every Bitcoin invested into Shiba, That's
Yeah,
why part of the reason why these coins go flying through the roof is the scarcity. Like how much is out there? How is this a rare coin or not? And then yeah, is the utility there? Is it
no,
something that
no,
is the backbone for some trading
no,
or
because you have to understand that these meme coins, these shit coins, are not meant to be more than what they are. They are meant to die within 3 months or so. Like, because once you peak, the people creating the shit coins, why would they then invest their time and money into actually building a product which is way more risky and time consuming than just creating another shit coin? What if your shit coin hits? Like, it's a numbers game, right? You create 100 shit coins a day. You, if the numbers tell you two two in 100 will hit, then you create 200 shit coins. You hit four. How much are the margins on those four a week? And should you do more numbers? And that's the only thing, they're meant to die. Like the shit coins that survive and actually become something is probably because the team genuinely had good intentions, which, in crypto with anonymous shit coins, you never know. Or they convinced the team, or someone doxed them, and they were like, well, we got to make this play now. And something like that happens, or the community took over, something like some weird stuff like that. Um, But most of these shit coins, the majority of them, are not meant to be more than what they are.
I agree. They're just like pump and dump schemes. But how does the question of the space? How does Sol get to $1,000? Right. I think that should be something you guys should be kind of getting to that answer, if you don't mind. I mean, that's why I jumped in. But like in my mind, this is not impossible, but it's like it's it would take a lot, right? You need so X amount of dollars to get to you right now. It's what, a market cap of 48 billion. It would have to be 10 times that. It would have to be 480 billion, $500 billion in order to get to 1,000 per Sol. And it's like, are you sure about that? The Tim Robinson meme,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
well,
like
that's a great question. So let me ask you, what do you think Bitcoin is going to trade at in the coming bull market?
I mean, if these ETFs go through and we get trillions of dollars going into Bitcoin from institutional investing, it's very possible that one Bitcoin could be worth $500,000. I don't think it's impossible. It's
I think this is all very narrative driven. So, okay, so the Bitcoin narrative is, I think, a pretty simple narrative, right? It's this uncorrelated store of value narrative. It's been around the longest. The chain, operates. Whatever the challenges are with it, put all those aside. It's the original. You've got the original Satoshi Nakamoto story. All of those things,
it's
like all of those narratives.
de-dollarization, people losing
All of
interest
that,
in the
all of
US
that,
dollar. Yeah.
100%. All those are all the narratives, and then now you just have an easier on ramp with the ETFs, right? Like now people can just like fucking throw their 401k money or whatever into like Bitcoin without actually having to go through the pain in the ass factor of KYCing at Coinbase and wiring money into Coinbase and having to learn about the shit and secure the shit and all. They don't even have to think about any of that. They can just literally go into their existing brokerage accounts and like drop more money in. Like that is straight up the narrative. Now there's other narratives. The halvening is a narrative, and there's other narratives too. But that narrative and that combination of stories is like the reason why there are people out there who go on TV and say, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to get to $500,000 a coin or $1 million a coin or whatever the fucking number is," right? And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. The narrative for a Solana to get to whatever price, like whatever, doesn't matter, 1,000, 500, 800, whatever it is, like straight up, I'm just giving like my opinion. The narrative is it is a better fucking casino than all the other casinos. Straight up. It's just a better casino. Ethereum is a casino and it's a layered casino. It's a multi-layered casino with all the L2s that creates a lot of friction and there's tons of rugs and tons of exploits and it never stops. It just never stops. Every fucking week there's a new fucking problem. Solana is just a better fucking Sky Casino. And now
Yeah.
does that mean that it gets to $1,000 a coin? I don't fucking know. I'm not here to like predict the future. I'm just saying that that is a narrative that I'm starting to see more and more and more take hold from people who are just gambling. They go, "Oh my god, it's so much better to gamble over here. Holy shit." And then they just have their liquidity there. Now they've
That's
moved
okay,
over.
but why I'm asking what he thinks the price of Bitcoin could be is because then you could ask yourself the following question. Let's say Bitcoin comes in that range, the number you just said. What happens then to all the other coins in the market? What happens to ETH? What happens to Solana if Bitcoin does hit that? Because
Yeah, I mean,
eventually,
I think there's still to your point, I know where you're going with this, but also to Naveen's point, you're going to look at a decoupling of people wanting to invest in stocks in the S&P 500.
that's not
They'll be
generally
like
that's not generally
they'll
what you
be
see
like
in the crypto. Crypto mostly stays in crypto. So
yeah,
what happens is
but there
if
is a
Bitcoin goes
decoupling that
to
does sometimes happen too. You do see the crypto markets
no, that has no
leading.
significant impact on the crypto market. So what will I can tell you what won't happen if Bitcoin goes to 500,000 per Bitcoin. Solana won't be $40. It will be a fraction, whatever the price of Bitcoin will be. And that it's up to everyone here to calculate the fractions from those differences. So if you
Sure,
look at
I get
look
that.
at the prior cycle when Bitcoin hit almost 70,000, the ETH fraction was between 0.08 to 0.12 price of Bitcoin, and at the peak it hit 0.14. It hasn't touched 0.14 yet. So you can calculate those fractions moving forward. These are all just estimates. And the real question is if we're ever going to hit those numbers. But that's how you can sort of model, okay, what needs to happen theoretically with Bitcoin if you want Solana to hit 1,000, right? So that's sort of how you can look at it. So how does the market need to get primed for all those positions to do well? Look, if Bitcoin goes back to 10K, I'm not saying it will, but for the sake of argument, it goes back to 10K. Solana won't be 1,000, right? Because this whole market sort of moves based on the overall price of Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin does go up significantly, everyone that's been in the market multiple cycles is here on stage knows out of experience that between those moves, there are periods where Bitcoin just sort of sits in certain ranges. And in those ranges, that's where money sloshes around all these other types of coins, which is Solana, which is ETH, and those then trade on those fractions. And that's where the money is sort of moves back and forth until Bitcoin makes a move up or down again.
Bitcoin doesn't always lead though, Hotshot. In 2017, Bitcoin was a laggard. It was Dash that took off first, and then ETH, and then a bunch of other crap, and then Bitcoin was actually late to that run. So it's not necessarily.
But Chainlink is also one of those early sort of movers. Mostly when the uptrend starts, there's a few coins that sort of are early indicators that the market is changing a bit. But overall, Bitcoin sort of allows the market to sit at certain ranges. So can we go there without Bitcoin moving would be an interesting discussion. Could you certainly go to that, right?
Yeah, if I can hop in on this conversation. So I think to that question, right, I think it helps to do some anchoring, right? And so if you look at traditional finance and a lot of the conversation around that, people are anchoring Bitcoin to a potential value of gold, right? Gold is what, $10 trillion market, right? And so if this meme of Bitcoin as digital gold or a better digital gold takes hold, then that's a decent number to anchor to. And that now gives you a value or potential value for what Bitcoin is if it's anchored to that, and that becomes self-fulfilling. Now, the other thing to also note and to understand is, the ETFs are one thing and they're a vehicle, right? And they give some legitimacy, but you're going to have a lot of players in the financial system who actually want to hold Bitcoin, right? Through custodians, for a couple of reasons. One is the financial system is built on leverage, right? So you want to have as close custody of an asset, right? Whether it's gold, whether it's fine art, whether it's Bitcoin, because you can lever up against that asset, right? And so when you build leverage, when I, for example, have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, I'm a financial operator and I'm asking myself, what do I do next, right? You go borrow, and then you potentially look at where the financial market's taking hold and what looks relatively similar to what I'm familiar with, right? The closest thing to how financial markets work today in terms of speed, execution, is Solana, right? And I believe one of the reasons why you see a jump trading, right, building Fire Dancer and trying to build this massively performant system is because they understand high frequency trading, they understand the speed of execution, and they're trying to build, in my view, a platform that they can migrate their business to. And that people in traditional finance, if we take this casino conversation, right? And we take speculation. Everything in the world is built on speculation. All financial systems are speculative, right? Whether you slap on JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs or DGens, it's all speculation, right? A lot of wealth is built on speculation. The guys at trading desks are speculating, right? The guys that are buying Pepsi or Tesla are speculating, right? There's something on balance sheets of companies called goodwill, right? Called a brand value. Coca-Cola has billions of dollars of brand value. What is that? Right? That's a belief system. That's a brand. That's something that people are ascribed to that is not very easy to value, but on balance sheets is valued, right? And so memes might be an extreme, or meme coins might be an extreme version of that. But a lot of brands and a lot of things accrue this monetary premium because there's some value in that recognition. There's some value in the fact that I'll grab a can of Coke because I've seen it, it's been around for a long time, relative to the store brand that might be just as good, but it's just not Coke. And so going back to this idea of where do we go from here and what gets us to $1,000 SOL, in my mind, it's people buy Bitcoin, the financial system gets an understanding of it, right? They value it and buy into this idea of digital gold. They lever up, they show up on Solana, and they start doing the things that they're comfortable and used to doing. They look for markets, they look for derivative platforms, they look for ways to participate. And Solana is optimized from a cost perspective and a speed perspective to fit the bill of what traditional financial players are used to. Now, the second thing that's really, really important is that the code base of FireDancer is in a language that people in traditional finance understand, right? 30, 40 years of financial platforms in traditional finance are built on the same code base. So when you're thinking as a financial institution, hey, where do I go build? Like, what systems do not basically turn my current stack of convoluted, platforms redundant? Where can I kind of integrate? So that looks really interesting, if and when FireDancer is launched and it meets the bill. And so for me, right, I don't think that's a far-fetched view that financial institutions of different shapes and sizes will realize that, these blockchains and decentralized platforms, and in particular Solana, are really, really good execution layers where a lot of liquidity can be pooled and they can build front ends into it. And these front ends don't necessarily have to be, complex UIs. The front end is I have a customer base that I can basically intermediate these markets with, that I can charge fees to do things on these networks that create value where I can extract some of that return, right? The financial return is a massive incentive, right? Show me the incentive and I'll tell you what's going to happen. If financial institutions get any sense that they can bring liquidity in these ecosystems, right? They can out execute normies who now have a massive disadvantage against the professionals who can move in size, who can, leverage much more ability to kind of access information and basically extract value from a marketplace where they're sophisticated, or at least the initial entrants are, then they will come here and they will build into here and they will make money here, right? And they'll extract as much as they can, do well for their investors, right? But also capture value for themselves. And
So
to me, I think, those are kinds of things that in my mind, I've framed at least a thesis and, I either confirm that as we go along or it'll change along the way based on new information. And the last thing I'll say is, as long as there are financial flows coming into Solana at breakneck speed, I mean, if you look at some data sources, over $800 billion of net flows have come into Solana over the last few weeks, primarily from centralized exchanges, primarily from Coinbase. That is not retail, right? That is some sort of large pool of professional and strategic players that are bringing all this liquidity into Solana. And the question you have to ask yourself is, why are they doing it? And what's the long-term gain? And I think looking at those numbers, as long as those numbers persist, as long as we're getting new capital formation in terms of airdrops, we haven't even gotten to the fact that most of the protocols that are launching airdrops have already shown or are beginning to show business models that actually generate revenue. That's very different from what happened on Ethereum. We haven't seen protocols where, a Jupiter, a Jito, Tensor, like we haven't seen these before where marketplaces have not even dropped liquidity, and they're dropping liquidity into functional platforms that have at least built communities, built meme value, right? Leading with NFTs, which are relatively sticky, right?
Hey, may
Those
I ask
things
you
are
a
really
question?
material.
May
Yes,
I ask you a question? Did you
sure.
say 800 billion?
Yes.
Where'd you get that number from?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. 800 million.
Yeah, what's the source of that number?
So I will
It's a big
actually,
difference, by the way.
yeah, sorry, wrong. Definitely not 800 billion. But I mean, if you look at my timeline, I've written a number of tweets, and I can share. Actually, I might be able to share it here. Can I post it up?
I don't know what you're. By the way, guys, anything that gets posted up at the top, like I can't control it. So feel free to post what you'd like. But
Sure.
discretion to everybody in the room. Also, while we're waiting here, I just want to reset the space quickly. Welcome everybody to $1,000 Soul. If you're enjoying anything about the conversation, click that button in the bottom right hand corner and give it a like, comment, retweet. It's the best way to support the space. And please follow the speakers. Now, I just want to set just like a ground level here. The title of the space is $1,000 Soul, but I don't want I don't know if it'll go to 1,000. I mean, it has to literally, $500 billion market cap. Maybe it happens in a year, 2 years, 6 months. I have no idea on time frame. So please just, obviously spend your money wisely.
Are you not happy with $110 Soul after you could have bought it for $15 2 months ago? You guys.
Shocked. I'm honestly shocked. Amy said it before that it happened this quickly. I mean, to see it going up 10, 15% day over day is nuts. And I'll be quite. I do not have a massive bag of Soul. I like
Come on, man. This is why we're here, for these types of moves. And name any other market where it moves like this is beautiful.
I know. But I mean, here's a question: do you think it's going to go to 1,000?
Oh, yeah. I stay with the fractions.
Yeah.
I think there's a real possibility of Bitcoin.
So
It depends on the effect of the ETFs. If they get approved, how much are the world's biggest professional shillers going to have an impact on the market? I think that's very important. We'll know that within a couple of weeks, and if that's significant, then we can really start churning some numbers out and see where we could go. But you already have one sort of well-known analyst called Willy Woo. I think he tweeted earlier today or yesterday that estimates like ballpark figures could be Bitcoin at the range of 700K and up, if that plays out the way most people are thinking right now. I'm not saying it will, but if Bitcoin hits any of those numbers, 6-digit numbers, all these coins are going to go. All of them are going to go up way more than they are now. The question is, where are they going to stop? And when do you need to get out personally? Like, each individual have to make their own choices. But if Bitcoin hits any 300,000, ETH is and Solana and all those coins are going to go up massively. Like,
Yeah,
no doubt about
you're
it.
also missing, like, what if there's a ETF for Sol after these, ETH and Bitcoin ETFs get approved? That's another,
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's why I looked at the CoinShares inflows, and all those companies that directly tie to the ETFs. Like I said, they bought 5 positions: Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Chainlink, and Polkadot. Those are the major buys for the 11 consecutive weeks in a row. So if these companies related to the ETFs are buying those positions, it would be assumed that those are the positions they're going to shill to their high net worth individuals or companies in the future. So that would include Solana, right?
I'd like to kind of propose one more kind of take here that's like an alternative to the main one that we've been talking about, that's related to like the ETFs and the price of Bitcoin and kind of fractions of that. I think ETH is a fair kind of target to talk about as a fraction of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is naturally looked at as a store of value. And the current ETH narrative is that Ethereum is also a store of value. And some stronger ETH supporters will say that ETH could be a better store of value than Bitcoin. Solana is not a store of value, right? And so when we talk about like where Solana gets its price from and what the price really represents, the view I like to take on it is that Solana is a settlement layer, right? And the Sol token is used, the staking of the Sol token is used as a way to secure the state of the network. And when, kind of to Akin's point, when this capital then flows on chain and it's traded on chain, when other industries go and move on chain, like payments specifically, and like large economic GDP value is being moved around on chain, it's important to secure that state from the different companies that are operating on chain. So buying and holding and staking SOL to validators you trust is no longer an investment decision, it's a business requirement, because you need to protect the value that you're moving and operating on chain. And I think long term, I think that's where Sol captures value and the price goes higher, because the larger of like the economic size that's being produced and moved on chain goes up in value when there's trillions of dollars of volume. And we have versions of the S&P being just traded on chain, and when large payment networks and banks are being built on chain, those go up, then it becomes a business requirement for these different kind of players to buy and stake SOL, not as an investment opportunity, but as a way to secure their current form of business. And I think that's like a very like Solana native way to think. That's like a real alternative to how kind of ETH and Bitcoin and Maxis will talk about that stuff. And I
Yeah,
just
I mean,
want to, I don't like talking about it as a fraction of Bitcoin. Naturally,
well,
Bitcoin moves will move Solana for sure, but that's not how I like to think about it.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and I think that ultimately, institutions, it'll happen like, what happened in high frequency trading, where institutions will invest in their own RPCs, they'll invest in their own stacks. Like you want that millisecond edge in execution, right? If we're looking from a trading perspective, right? And there are a couple of things that are really important. One is that because of the transactions costs being very nominal, right? The network effect that could ensue in Solana could be like nothing we've ever seen on chain, right? Because there's, for a couple of reasons. One is just, right, clearly it's trivial to trade, and so more trading will happen. And we're seeing, we're seeing everything across Solana, like in terms of NFTs, tokens, DEX transactions, right? Clearly beginning to eclipse Ethereum and other chains, and I think that's going to accelerate, right? But the other thing which I think we often miss, and which we sort of got, I think TVL has become this thing that actually, the ETH Max is used to brag, but in actual fact, the more important thing in traditional finance is capital efficiency, right? Because it's about how much can you churn a dollar, and how quickly can you churn a dollar over and over again, right, to create value. And to say that, Solana is with a fraction of a TVL doing already this level of transactions volume, like the traditional finance guys will look at that and say, okay, there's something different here. Like I can actually get into this game, use much less capital, right, turn it over at a higher frequency, and have a much bigger ROI. And I think what's going to end up happening if this trend continues is that networks, network effects have this sort of function where at some point there's almost like an event horizon where a network just sort of goes bonkers, right? Everyone just accumulates to that network because a lot of the value is there, right? And I think we'll end up seeing these power laws sort of show up in this space where at some point it becomes very, very difficult to unseat a network if it is highly performant, if it's low cost, right? And if, by the way, you have to understand, as more of these traditional entities start actually bringing value and building things and contributing to the base and contributing to the stack, right? They actually have all these like sunk, I mean, they're really sunk cost, but they have all this capital expenditure that actually now ingrains them into the system, right? So to a large extent, right, we'll see TradFi maxis on Solana, right? Because anyone who's able to capture any significant part of that network and capture an edge in any certain way will want to defend that position, right? And so for me, those are the things that I think over the next, perhaps more of a mid-range period, over the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, like those are the things that if we start seeing that occur, then it just becomes, okay, this is the best platform for now. And even in 3 to 5 years, it could be, this is the best platform that's good enough, where anything that needs to then unseat it would have to be 5 to 10x better, right? And so I think that hurdle becomes harder and harder, especially if a lot of the rest of the capital in the world begins to congregate and say, okay, maybe here are the 2 or 3 protocols that really make sense going forward. And I think Solana is going to have a lot to say about that. I think for some of the reasons I just outlined, Solana potentially has a much bigger advantage over any other chains we've seen thus
I
far.
want to jump in here quickly, and I do want to throw it over to Crypto Lord, because Crypto Lord has had their hand up. I've been watching the clock for over 2 hours. So Crypto Lord, appreciate the patience. I'm throwing it straight to you. What do you think about this?
Yeah, Solana to 1,000. Is it possible? Um, Even with the Bitcoin ETF passing, yeah, like somebody said, like Solana to 1,000, that is like 10x from here. That would put Solana around 400 and something, like almost to $500 billion this thing. Well, I don't see that possible. Maybe as the ecosystem gets more expanded, maybe let's say in the next 10 years, maybe, but it may be actually very very difficult. But also, Lib, I want to actually say something about meme coin because I wanted to actually contribute on that meme coin discussion that time, but I wasn't given the chance. So the something about meme coin is this. Like I started crypto in 2017. I started with $0. I didn't bring in any money. I just joined the community. I did few things there, dropped in the token, and from there I started building up liquidity. So, like if you check out, most of the people in the space are mostly people like me, mostly people from Nigeria, mostly people from Africa, Philippines, Indians, and all that. Like just small earners countries coming massively into the space. But where are they going to? They're kind of going to go buy Solana that is going to take time to get to $100. That is going to take time to make S2 before they make like 100% of the money. They are going to look for something that is low cap, something that okay, we can maybe 2 days, 3 days, we can get like 2x, 3x of our money. We can get profit easily. Like big cap projects are mostly for investors. If they get 50%, they get 20%, they are okay. So for meme coin, I think people are getting it all wrong. Meme coin onboards more people than anything. Meme coin onboards more people than anything in the space because it onboards everybody. And especially for Solana, that the gas is actually very, very cheap, easy to build on, and the community is actually very great. Let us not forget the fact that this meme coins community coming in has actually helped Solana to grow because the more people are buying Solana to go and do meme coin, to go and trade meme coin, it's actually increasing the price and it's actually providing solid liquidity for Solana. I try to get some kind of like what are people are saying that meme coins are not good in the ecosystem, meme coins are not good. But look at it, what are the biggest onboarder of people in the into the ecosystem? It's actually meme coin, and people actually have that kind of hope and say that man, I can actually flip my money to whatsoever it's going to be. It's all about the risk to reward ratio that people are looking at. Like
So
people mostly don't feel like no risk, no reward.
okay, so like I think I sometimes do fall into this kind of train of thinking, and I agree most often. Now, by the way, this what I'm about to say does not excuse the fact. It does not excuse the fact that it's gambling, that most people lose money, that blah blah. Blah. I'm just going to talk about one specific aspect of what you said. and then I have to throw it over to Jane because I invited Jane up here. Jane has been downvoting almost every take for 3 hours, so I got to hear what she has to say. So this is everything you said outside of this one specific point. I'm going to leave it and I won't address it, but this part I will. I do believe that meme coins, these culture coins, a lot of these shit coins do onboard quite a bit of people, and I think there's some of the biggest onboarding events that happen when it comes to just like getting people in. Because I agree, for a lot of people, bro, they look at Bitcoin or Ethereum is so fucking expensive, whatever. Even Solana, a couple $100 is getting to the point for one coin. But they look at it and they say, okay, I can throw $5, $10, this sort of thing. And that does bring a lot of people in. Now, that doesn't change the fact that it is gambling and that most people will lose all their money. Right? I think that's independent of this separate point. But I agree with you. I agree that they're big onboarding mechanisms. I also agree that the developers are really usually the only ones that win, and most of them are scammers and deploy like 20 coins every single day. Like I can tell you for a fact right now that a lot of these, I hate to even say, a lot of the people that are pretty big on the timeline right now that just consistently keep getting wins, and you wonder how, it's because these MFers are deploying the coins or are close to the team that are deploying the coins. I'm telling you for a fact. This is not speculation. And if you're slightly involved or you know what's going on behind the scene, it's very easy to tell. And I really just recommend caution for people that when you see these things on the timeline and these people that you love and trust that are, showing these and shilling these, whatever it might be, just understand that they have a big fucking bag. And what Hotshot was saying was absolutely true.
Can I
They
like
get allocated.
can I come in?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Like every year, people do American lottery. People buy lottery ticket. People buy all these things. Even when they know the chances of winning is like maybe 1:1 billion, 1 is to this, like one person is going to win it. Like people keep buying this thing. Like yeah, these devs. There are so many rock devs. There are so many rock people in the space. There are so many meme coins springing up, especially on Solana, like 10 in per second. So if you go to 5 minutes, you see like 10 per seconds coming up every day. Like, I don't feel that it's the season. They feel that there is liquidity in the space and people buy anything because anything can actually blow up.